Protests occurred in Colorado, Illinois, Florida, Tennessee and Washington. Opposition to COVID-19 stay-at-home orders has continued to build from coast to coast, with at least 5 states the site of protests Sunday. Protesters sporting masks and signs took to their state capitals, while others honked their car horns during gridlock demonstrations calling on their governors to open up their states. In Washington state, a gathering in Olympia dubbed Hazardous Liberty. Defend the Constitution. Called on Governor Jay Inslee to rescind the state's stay-at-home order. Washington, which had the first confirmed case of the novel coronavirus in the U.S. in January, now has more than 11,800 confirmed cases. In Illinois, protesters shouting "Open Illinois!" took to the steps of the Lincoln statue in Springfield as part of the national Operation Gridlock movement. The state has more than 30,300 confirmed cases. In Denver, cars descended upon the Capitol in a gridlock demonstration, while protesters gathered on the lawn carrying signs that read, "All jobs are essential," and "Dangerous freedom over government tyranny." The state has more than 9,400 confirmed cases of COVID-19. The Nashville Freedom Rally in front of Tennessee's Capitol called for the right to assemble and an end to social distancing in the state. Tennessee has at least 6,500 confirmed COVID-19 cases. In Florida, which has 25,300 confirmed cases, the South Florida Tri-County Car Caravan called on the state to lift restrictions on businesses and to open public spaces. The U.S. has more COVID-19 cases and deaths than any other country in the world, with at least 742,000 and 39,000, respectively. Most states in the U.S. have adopted some form of a lockdown to curb the spread of the coronavirus. In the last 4 weeks, as scores of businesses have closed, 22 million Americans have filed for unemployment benefits. Last week, other stay-at-home protests took place in California, Michigan, Kentucky, Minnesota, Virginia, Utah, North Carolina and Ohio. President Donald Trump has called to liberate states, including Michigan, Minnesota and Virginia. In a Saturday briefing, he said that some governors are being unreasonable in their stay-at-home orders. On ABC's This Week on Sunday, Washington Governor Inslee said the president's message is encouraging illegal activity. To have an American president encourage people violate the law, I can't remember any time in my time in America we have seen such a thing, he told ABC chief anchor George Stephanopoulos. It's dangerous, because it could inspire people to ignore things that could save their lives. Besides, hundreds gather in California to protest stay-at-home orders. The demonstration was one of a handful to take place in the U.S. this week. More than 200 protesters gathered in Huntington Beach, California, in what was the latest demonstration in the United States against stay-at-home orders under the novel coronavirus pandemic. The March for Freedom event took place Friday afternoon at the intersection of Walnut and Main Streets in the downtown area of Huntington Beach, about 40 miles southeast of Los Angeles. Some protesters held signs reading "Quarantine the sick, not the healthy," and "Open Cali now." One protester wore what appeared to be a faux hazmat suit, donning a sign that said the virus was a lie. The event described itself as a march for freedom, liberty and reopening the California economy. Like other demonstrations across the country, some protesters struck a partisan tone and waved Trump 2020 flags. Police said in a statement they were called to the scene and that while it was initially small, it quickly grew to a group of over 200 people. "We are asking our community and those that visit Huntington Beach to remember we are under an executive order by the state, which specifically states all residents of California should stay at home in an effort to help flatten the curve in regard to community spread of COVID-19, Huntington police said in a statement. The more people are out and gathered in groups, the more COVID-19 will spread in our community and endanger lives. Police noted that they understood emotions are high and many are frustrated with the current executive order. No arrests were made at the protest, police said. A stay-at-home order is in effect in California until further notice. the majority of the states in the U.S. have adopted some form of a lockdown to curb the spread of the coronavirus, or COVID-19. There are at least 706,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the U.S. and at least 37,000 deaths, according to data compiled by Johns Hopkins University. Earlier this week, other protests took place in Michigan, Kentucky, Minnesota, Virginia, Utah, North Carolina and Ohio. President Donald Trump has responded to the protests, saying that it's been a tough process for people. "You know, I told you, there's death and there's problems and staying at home too. It's not just, isn't it wonderful to stay at home," Trump told ABC News chief White House correspondent Jon Karl on Thursday. Though Trump said at one point governors would be empowered to make their own plans for reopening their states, he struck a much different tone less than 24 hours later. "Liberate Minnesota. Liberate Michigan. And liberate Virginia, and save your great Second Amendment. It is under siege," the president tweeted on Friday morning. California Governor Gavin Newsom has not responded to the protests directly, but he did tweet Friday urging people to stay home. "CA is flattening the curve, but we must continue to take this seriously. Stay home. Practice physical distancing," Newsom wrote.